Going to a bookstore with the kids, I've got to be honest, it's a test of patience. On the one hand, you want your kids to become bookworms, little adventurers, immersing themselves in the world of J.R.R. Tolkien or Roald Dahl. On the other hand, you just want to get them the hell out of there as soon as you see their greedy eyes scanning the toy aisle. At this rate, my wallet's going to look more pathetic than their pile of textbooks. So after a fierce internal struggle, my little Lucy and I finally found a quiet spot, armed with a giant chocolate ice cream cone and a bunch of brand new comic books. Kids are kids. You can't get them to stay put without a little bribery by way of food. We had just sat down. Before I could even take a breath of relief, bam! Lucy's chocolate ice cream cone landed right on the floor, creating a disgusting brown swamp. The little girl looked at the melting mess, her face crumpling as if the end of the world had arrived. I was about to comfort her when a cleaning lady appeared, with a smile that just radiated sunshine. She quietly took out a rag, gently cleaned everything up without a single complaint. Meanwhile, at the next table, a blonde mother was talking to her daughter, in a way that seemed like she wanted the whole library to hear. She pointed to the cleaning lady and whispered, her voice full of menace. "Listen, if you don't study hard, you'll only be able to do jobs like that woman." Good God. I swear at that moment I wanted to get up and throw a copy of Harry Potter right in her face. What kind of toxic, ridiculous mindset is that? It's not motivation, it's an insult. It's using other people as a pedestal to elevate yourself. It poisons a child's mind with the idea that a person's worth is measured by the title on their job badge. Oh, really? So a great doctor who isn't kind is more valuable than a dedicated, good-hearted cleaning person? Don't tell me this woman has never slipped on a banana peel and had someone clean up after her. I tried to stay calm, taking a deep breath. I looked at Lucy, straight into her clear eyes, and said, "Listen to Dad. You should study hard, not so you can be someone's boss. Study so you have the ability to help those who are more in need than you." I'm not sure if the little girl understood everything, but her reaction made me feel so relieved. She nodded her head quickly. "Yes, I know, Dad." Then she happily licked her new ice cream. Of course, I bought her another one. Her eyes sparkled with an innocence and serenity that I believe no ice cream could ever buy. Afterward, I glanced over at the next table. The other mother's daughter just sat there quietly gnawing on a cookie. No smile, no sparkle in her eyes, as if her innocence had been completely sucked dry by her mother. The mother shot me a sharp glare, as if to say, "What the hell are you looking at?" I just smiled faintly and turned away. There was no need to argue or explain. I just wanted my daughter to understand that education is not a tool to belittle others, but a weapon to help them. You know, the way we talk to our children will shape their mindset, whether we want it to or not. Don't turn them into people who only know how to compete, but teach them compassion and kindness. Because in the end, when everything else fades, that's what truly remains. And speaking of people who blame circumstances to justify their laziness, do you know what drives me the most insane? It's not the smacking sounds of someone chewing or someone talking on the phone in a movie theater. It's the habit of blaming others. It's like a mental virus spreading everywhere. Just look, a guy trips and falls on the street. Instead of getting up and dusting himself off, he looks up at the sky and curses, "Damn it, this rain is a bastard." A person loses their job. Instead of self-reflecting, they complain, "This company is rotten, that boss is a biased jerk." See? It's a twisted way of thinking. A virtual reality version they create for themselves, where every mistake is someone else's fault, and they, the angels, are always innocent. And this habit, it doesn't just appear out of nowhere. It stems from a plague that spreads from generation to generation. Blind overprotection. I have a neighbor friend named Johnny. When he was a kid, he once got into a fight with another kid and got a swollen cheek. Instead of asking his son what he did, Johnny's mother immediately rushed over to the other kid's house and yelled, "How dare you hit my son?" It sounds like a fairy tale, but that's a common story in this country. That very action planted a dangerous thought in Johnny's head. I am always right, and the world is always wrong. Johnny grew up to be a mechanic. One time, he messed up an entire batch of goods, causing tens of thousands of dollars in damage. Instead of admitting fault, he yelled, The tools are crappy. This machine is no good. You see? That's the consequence of a childhood where you never had to take responsibility. Imagine it this way. You protect your children as if they are fragile eggs. You don't let them make mistakes. You don't let them stumble. The result is they grow up with a distorted worldview. They think the universe has an obligation to treat them well, that they deserve the best things. And when things don't go their way, it's the fault of the system or fate, not their own. That's why we see so many adults who still have the mindset of a child. They blame their parents, their school, the government, anything but themselves. They forget that life is not a video game with a magical undo button. Every decision has consequences. I once witnessed a grown man lose all his money gambling, then turn around and blame the cheating casino. He wasn't wrong. It was the roulette table's fault. Funny, isn't it? The lesson here is simple, but too difficult to accept. Take responsibility. This is one of the hardest things in life, but it is also the only path for us to truly grow up. We must learn to say, I was wrong, I will fix it. We must learn to get back up after falling. Honestly, sometimes life throws something absurd at you just to make you stop and look at everything. For me, that absurd thing was a game update. It was a game I had been attached to since I was a kid. The kind of game I used to spend all night playing, ignoring the mountain of homework. After almost 20 years, it suddenly had a new update. Awesome, I thought, a round-trip ticket to my childhood. I clicked on the icon, the gamer blood in me boiling. Log in. The username was easy. The password. Of course, forgotten. Damn it. I sighed. Almost 2 decades. Countless bank accounts, Netflix, all kinds of passwords. How could I possibly remember this antique? I clicked on Forgot Password, and a security question appeared. What is your dream? I sat there, staring at the screen as if it had just asked me, who are you? The question sounded simple, but I had forgotten the answer. I tried typing become an astronaut, become a millionaire, or even become a rocker. All wrong. That memory, it had been buried under piles of bills, boring meetings, and late-night dinners hastily eaten in front of the TV. My eyes welled up, not because I couldn't get into the game, but because I realized a terrible truth. I had been living so busy that I forgot who I used to be. The kid with a simple dream from back then was now a grown man who could buy everything he wanted, but didn't have enough time to remember what he truly longed for. Life had stolen my dream little by little, and I didn't even realize it. I felt desperate, suddenly wanting to scream, wanting to punch that stupid computer screen. But then a light flashed. I suddenly remembered, I wrote everything in my diary. What the hell? I rushed to find my old tattered diary, the one I had written in since I was a kid. I opened it, flipping through the pages, and on the last page, I had scribbled a line, game password, my dream is to be a writer. So I hadn't forgotten, I just buried it. I laughed, a bitter yet relieved laugh. The password was accepted, and I was back in my virtual world. But strangely, after all that, I didn't want to play the game anymore. I just wanted to sit here staring at the old diary page and ask myself, so why not start over? And that's not the only time something seemingly meaningless taught me a lesson. Hey, listen, this is one of the questions I get asked the most, from friends, from strangers online, and even from younger kids. The kind of questions like, why do they hate me for no reason? Or, hey man, why do people talk bad about me even though I didn't do anything wrong? Initially, I didn't know how to answer. That's life. Some people do nothing and are still liked. Others are intensely hated. I used to think everything was random, a game of cosmic chance. But after a long time of observation, I realized an interesting truth. The people who hate you are often your biggest fans. Sounds crazy, right? But just think about it. They know everything about you. They know what you do, where you go, who you talk to. They follow you obsessively more than your close friends. They know your weaknesses, but they spend more time analyzing your strengths. And here's the key. They don't hate the real you. They hate what you represent. They hate your confidence, the constant smile on your face, the way you achieve the things they long for, but can't do. Like that guy at my office. He always talks behind my back. He says I'm just all talk and showy, but I know he's secretly watching whenever I present an idea to the boss. He doesn't hate me. He hates that I dare to stand up and speak my mind, something he has never had the courage to do. Or a good friend of mine. She's smart, always trusted by her boss. A few other colleagues whisper behind her back, saying she's relying on her talent. But in reality, they don't hate her. They are jealous of that intelligence, with the position they want but will never achieve. You see, the problem isn't with you. The problem is with them. You have something they crave but can't have. You have confidence, you have talent, you have a path they don't dare to walk, and that makes them feel threatened. Unconsciously, they turn that threat into hatred, into bad-mouthing. So, next time, if someone talks bad about you or shows hatred, take a deep breath and smile. Don't bother with it or retaliate. It only proves one thing: you have outstanding qualities, and they can feel it. Seriously, there are days when life throws all the worst things at you. The kind of thing where you get fired, get dumped, and then your beloved car gets a flat tire. Negative energy just builds up inside you like a smelly trash can on a hot day. When that happens, what do people usually do? They usually turn to their friends. Let's get together, guys. Get me a beer. They think that beer, alcohol, and noisy parties will help them forget their sadness. You'll laugh, you'll talk, you'll temporarily escape reality. But that's a trap. After the party ends, you not only have a huge bill and a splitting headache, but the sadness is still there, maybe even heavier. It's like you're trying to stuff an elephant into a closet. It doesn't disappear, it just gets squeezed in. And when you open the closet, it'll explode. So I have a piece of advice for you. And this is advice I had to learn from the most painful failures. Find an individual sport. When you're sad, when you're angry, don't try to escape. Face it. Alone. Go somewhere. Alone. And here's why. When you focus on an individual sport, like running, swimming, or cycling, you'll be alone with your thoughts. The drops of sweat will be your way of releasing that negative energy. Each step you run, each turn of the bike wheel is you pushing away the sadness. You're not distracted by small talk. You can only focus on your breathing, on your heartbeat, and on that tiny goal in front of you. Go a little further. And out of all the individual sports, I really recommend running. It doesn't require much. A pair of shoes, a road, and a little willpower are enough. It's not expensive. You can run anywhere, anytime. It's also one of the most effective ways to release stress. I once had a really terrible time. Work was awful. My relationship fell apart. I thought about going to a bar, partying it up, but then I chose to go for a run. I ran until my legs were exhausted, until my chest was burning, until I was drenched in sweat. And when I stopped, I no longer felt sad. Instead, I felt at peace. But there's another reason, a very real reason. When you run, you're not just running from sadness, you're also running from pyramid scheme sellers. You're running from people who want to ask for your number. And most importantly, you're running from the very stupid person who disappointed you. Running doesn't just make you physically healthier, it makes you mentally stronger. It teaches you how to face difficulties, how to overcome your own limits. It helps you control your body, and more importantly, control your mind. So, next time you feel sad, don't seek out fleeting pleasures. Put on your shoes, get out there, and run. When I was a kid, I was a boy who could never sit still. My teachers kept calling me the stubborn one, the rebellious one. I was constantly being moved to new classes, new schools, to the point where I couldn't even remember the names of all my old teachers. Every time I was teased at school, instead of crying, I'd punch a wall. Every time I felt angry, I'd throw things. They saw me as rebellious, they saw me as a troublemaker, but no one ever asked me, why? I didn't know who to talk to. My mom was too busy with work, only sighing every time she got a call from school. My dad always thought men weren't supposed to cry. So I learned to hide all my frustrations, all my sadness, and it just built up, turning me into a ticking time bomb. And then I met my teacher, Miss Miller. She was different. She didn't yell when I threw a book on the floor. She just stood there calmly looking at me. When the other students looked at me with fear, she still smiled. I thought she was an alien. One day after class ended, she told me to stay. I thought to myself, oh no, another moral lecture. She poured me a cup of hot milk and gave me a cookie. She didn't say a word, just sat there and watched me, as if I were a strange sculpture in a museum. After a few minutes of silence, she said a line that I will never forget. Hey, tell me, why are you so angry? I was stunned. It had been almost 10 years, and this was the first time someone had asked me why. I had never been listened to. I had never had a chance to tell my story. I began to talk, talking about the kids who teased me, talking about the sadness of not being cared for by my parents, talking about all the anger that I had hidden inside. I talked, and she just sat there listening quietly, without interrupting, without judging, without giving advice. She just listened. And that very act of listening changed my life. Right then, I felt like a valve had been opened. The sadness, the anger, all of it just poured out. When I was done, I felt a strange sense of relief. From that day on, I was no longer a rebellious kid. I still had my sad days, but I didn't throw things anymore. I had learned to speak out. And thanks to Miss Miller, I had learned that the only thing I truly needed was someone to listen. And here's another story about saying no. You know, there's a type of person I bet you've met before. People who never dare to say no. They're afraid of offending people, afraid of being hated, afraid of being seen as uncaring. And so they just nod and agree to every request, every favor, until their lives become a mess of things that aren't their business. I used to be like that too. I was a true yes man. Until one day, I was at the office trying to finish an important project. The deadline was just a few hours away. Suddenly, a colleague, I'll call him Sneaky Mike, came to my desk with a mysterious look on his face. "Hey, are you free?" Mike asked, whispering as if he were smuggling drugs. "I have something I need you to help with. It's just a small thing." I should have said no, but I didn't dare. I was afraid Mike would think I was an uncaring jerk. So I followed a strategy I had learned to politely decline. I looked at him, gave a friendly smile, and said, "I'd really love to help you, Mike, but I have an urgent project. Maybe we can talk after work, okay?" Mike frowned a little, but then nodded and left. I felt so clever. It turns out saying no subtly wasn't so difficult. I continued to work and completely forgot about Mike. But you know, there was an unbelievable twist. At the end of the day, I heard the story from another colleague. It turns out the small thing Mike asked me to help with was to go buy 200 donuts for a fake charity fundraiser. He had conned a few other people, and after they spent all night making the donuts, Mike had taken them all to sell to a bakery and pocketed the money. He just needed a fool to go buy the ingredients and do the work for him. And, you know, the guy who said yes to helping Mike ended up having to pay for the ingredients and then got pulled into trouble for being suspected of being an accomplice. I suddenly felt a shiver run down my spine. My fear of offending others, the subtle rejection skill I had learned, not only helped me finish my work on time, but also saved me from a funny yet troublesome scam. That's just how life is. It keeps throwing all sorts of random things at you, and your job is to learn how to dodge them or turn them into a lesson. Just like the human habit of comparing. You know, there's a piece of advice I always hear again and again, but I find it incredibly useless. Stop comparing yourself to others. It sounds good, but can you really do it? Every day you go to work, to school, or simply to the park to exercise. You meet so many people. You see a guy with a confident smile like a movie star, a girl dressed stylishly like she just stepped out of a magazine, or a colleague who speaks as fluently as a professional speaker. And immediately, the comparison browser in your head automatically turns on. It's part of human instinct. Can you turn it off? No, that's impossible. However, there is one key thing we can change. That is to change how we use that browser. Instead of asking why, ask how. Most of humanity, after running the comparison browser, will automatically wonder, why is he so confident and poised? Why am I so insecure? And the nature of those questions is an exclamation aimed at belittling our own spirit. It's like you're throwing a dumbbell at your own foot. Now, let's try to change the direction of our thinking. How can I be as confident and poised as he is? How can I win that girl's affection? Do you see the difference? You have shifted from focusing on negative emotions to a rational solution. You're no longer the victim. You are now in the role of a person seeking a path. And over time, you will no longer be belittled by that comparison browser, because it is no longer a meaningless confrontation, but has become a tool. When you see someone successful, you no longer feel jealous. Instead, you'll be curious. How did they do that? What can I learn from them? And your insecurity will also fade over time, because you have understood that comparison is not a trap, but an opportunity for you to become better.